Welcome, everybody, to What Makes a Tick. Appreciate you joining us. We've got a great group of people here, a lot of friends from around the industry that are from all over. We've got Jonas coming in from most likely Germany, I guess, this time around. John coming up from the very sunny Detroit. And then we have our special guest today. Besides everybody else is special. Okay, we're not going to take away from anybody, but our special guest today from LAMA, which stands for, and I'm going to let Ewan and Jeroen explain
You,
what.
yeah.
So number one, the names.
Yeah.
Ewan
It's
Cameron.
good.
I got that.
Yeah.
I could never get drunk.
Yeah, it's Jeroen, but
Jeroen.
Jeroen or so is all
Jeroen.
fine.
Okay. So welcome, guys, and it's so great to have you on the show today. We just want to talk a little bit, and we've got a great group of people here that are really interested in the whole LAMA workflow and how things work. I've got our system set up here, and we're ready to demo around. But tell us a little bit about how you got started. Where did this whole idea come from, and where do you hope to go with it?
Okay. Jeroen, you are the founder. Over to you,
Yeah.
sir.
So I've been a broadcast engineer myself since 2005, and I've basically worked for all the beer companies, also in the NEP, Discovery, well, EMG. I'm not sure if EMG is in the US, but anyways.
Yeah.
And so at some point I've worked for Eurosport, more or less between 2008 and 2017, I guess. And during that time, there was a lot of video automation going on, but no audio automation. And so at the same time, you do all these shows that are more or less the same every time, right? You have a lot of these smaller sports where there's international sound coming in, a couple of commentators, maybe some people calling in, maybe a leader, but it's kind of always the same. And so I thought, why shouldn't you be able to automate this? And that's basically where our first product came from. So we created a system to automate these kind of shows, and Eurosport was actually looking for exactly that at the time. So that was our basically luck, and that's basically the birth of LAMA. So we started co-developing that thing with them.
Outstanding. Now, how many channels, like for Eurosport? I'm just imagining a larger type of broadcast. So how many channels were you auto mixing? Is it just 8, or is it 20, 30?
As in channels, as in audio tracks, or channels as in TV channels? Oh, audio tracks.
Audio tracks, yes.
No, so in their case, it's actually quite simple. So they have international sound and just a lot of commentators. And there are never more, in their case, at least on the digital platform, more than 2 commentators live at the same time. And what they do is switch between commentators during a broadcast. But of course, there are all these like special cases. Like, for instance, there's a lot of times English on international sound. And for instance, the Dutch will not translate English. But other languages will do this. So interviews will need to be written up in level on the Dutch mix, but not on the other ones. And so these cases also are for other languages. So if there would be a French interview, they wouldn't translate it. So there are all these small details that you need to think about to actually make it work.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And is that actually you're programming that in so it's ahead of time, or are they going through like macros or whatever to say, okay, this is the action that we need to take at this time?
No. It is doing it all by itself. But people are also always late. So our theory is, well, if people are always late, then it doesn't matter. It's so the software is running real time, but analyzing it will take a little bit of time. But then faders get moved up.
Okay.
But maybe I can just butt in here and say hello, first of all, to everyone. So it's great to see you all on the session. My name's Ewan Cameron. I'm one of the co-founders as well. I come more from a pro AV streaming background than Jeroen. So Jeroen's more on the broadcast side. But Eurosports, one of the interesting things about Eurosports is one of their biggest challenges that they're actually doing 27 different languages. So you can imagine we've also been supporting them with our Auto Mix solution for all the last Olympics as well. So you can imagine when you've got the Olympics, you've got, I don't know how many events are happening simultaneously at the same time. And then you're supporting 27 different languages. you can imagine the amount of mixing work that comes out of that. So I think Anthony, who's Anthony Sasho, who's been our sort of main supporter at Eurosports, has been quite honest. He said, I don't know how we could actually do it without the automation. So that's been absolutely brilliant to actually get that as a first customer and to be able to deliver that for that purpose.
I can't imagine.
Well, the interesting point is when they were experimenting, this always makes us laugh. When they were experimenting with the system, they had one time where they were actually having one engineer and he was simultaneously mixing 90 mixes.
Wow.
Now, so obviously he wasn't listening that carefully to the 90 mixes, he trusted the system worked, but it kind of gives you an idea of, the amount of trust. And also the other interesting point was when they started out, to be fair, we hadn't quite got the algorithms right. We hadn't quite got to the point where it was as we wanted it to be. But then last IBC, we had some of the guys come from Eurosports from Norway, and they said, okay, reluctantly, we prefer using it now. So that was kind of like a real sort of victory for us, is that they realized that, yes, actually this was more than fit for purpose. That was great.
Is there something that like some A1s, none to go named or anything like that, but do you get pushback when you say, hey, you're going to get these auto mixing things? Do they feel like, oh, you're after my job, what am I going to do? I don't know anybody around here that might feel like that.
It's an interesting point. I think my argument there is, I think there is an art and there is a science. And I think a lot of what we do is, a lot of it is just the science of it. It's just, balancing up signals. It's right. Pretty basic stuff. For the real high-end stuff where it becomes the art, absolutely, you want to have people involved. And I think that was also why we started off with Automix, but we got a lot of pushback, as we said, on the sessions. Whereby people were saying, well, actually, what I'm really looking for is a software-based audio mixer that's a true broadcast mixer. And we were working heavily with the guys at Sky in the UK, and that was one of their big asks. They essentially wanted a Cowrec or a Lavo in a software form. Right. So understanding how it works, having all the same functionalities and the same way of working as you have in a Cowrec or a Lavo. So that was the birth of the LAMA Mix product. We like simple names, by the way. So LAMA Mix, LAMA Connect, and LAMA Auto Mix. So that was the birth of the initial product of LAMA Mix. Jeroen, maybe I'll pass over to you.
No, yeah. So I fully agree. But okay. Maybe what we need to add there is that one of the problems they had when we had the mixer running, because this is actually the other product that we are showing here, I guess. So at some point they had kind of like a POC running with a mixer in the cloud, and of course they were before us. They were also testing with Reaper, and Reaper has this rewrite.
Everybody starts with Reaper. It seems like everybody starts with Reaper in the cloud, especially.
Yeah. But Reaper has reroute, and they use that to get audio signals from other programs in. Within the same EC2 instance,
right?
And basically, if they wanted to replace Reaper with another mixer, we needed to have similar functionality, and that's basically where Connect came in. So Connect started out as a virtual ASIO driver, and so basically what we do is we monitor the output of programs. And basically, like VST plugins, really, once a program has written its output, we are already giving it to the next one. So in that sense, it doesn't add any latency. And then you can do all the routings between programs.
And that's where I found a little bit of a challenge. And it took me a little bit to get my head around it, but you guys were super responsive, and I could see that it was just going to take a little bit of just familiarity of it. Just like the first time I turned on our Sienna processing engine, which is the nodal based also, it just, it blows your mind of your possibilities. And then once you see the possibilities, it really opened me up on different options. And I love the way that we could be a little bit more, I guess you would say, responsive to the needs of the show. So let's start kind of going through a little bit of what the mixer part itself. So I'm going to share my screen so everybody can see this. This is the basic, We should be seeing it. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the basic layout of the mix. So there's two pieces, as they said. So
Mhm.
there's mix and then there's connect. Connect in the back is more or less just your audio and input, the easy way to route it. So what we did on this one is out of the audio input, if I pop it up, you can see that I'm using the Dante virtual sound card that's on this instance. And then I have, I think only assigned, I got tired of clicking. By the way, that's something we need to add in.
Select all.
Yeah, so just select all. Well, I
We
didn't want
have
to
enabled
that.
all, actually.
On this one it is there, but there was,
Yeah, on the
I think
other
it was
one.
this one. It's not. Yeah,
This,
yeah, it's not
yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Okay.
so I routed the ASIO driver output of the DVS from this into the LAMA device IO, and then I have it just reversed coming back out of the audio output. These little pieces over here on the right side, these are the magic that I'll show you. This is taking, and this is where it took us a little bit to get this figured out, but this is taking MIDI data from my control surface that is actually over here. And I'll switch to that camera now to kind of show you that. So I'm using a, this is a platform M Plus, which is from Icon. And I know for a fact this is Tucker's favorite control surface. I see Tucker's on the list there. It's, I know he doesn't like it, but I like it. I just like the size of it more than anything. I have an X Touch also that we tried to get to work because it has a few more features on it to be able to go between the pages and all. But this is actually making the changes, and this is across the network. Of course, you know, guys, I don't do anything easy. So this is across the network into mix here. So now I have full control. Now, the copy I have running is running in a virtual machine. So this is running under Incus. This is a full Windows 10 build that is running the LAMA Mix and LAMA Connect on it. And what we're using on this side over here also, if I could get it to show up, it's kind of hard to tell, I know, but this is on my local machine, LAMA Connect here. And so this is where the tie-ins come in. So I'm taking the MIDI input from the platform. I'm going through, yeah, just have the MIDI loggers are in there just so we can see where you're getting signals back and forth. You can see what's happening. And then it's doing a data send to the IP address. Now this is my local IP address here and the stream name, but this absolutely could be going across to a cloud instance too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the difference between what the different modules are. Go ahead.
So just to very quickly add to this. So the reason we've built this is because a lot of people are experimenting with RTP MIDI, but people are saying that RTP MIDI is kind of unstable, especially over the internet. And so this actually generates TCP IP streams instead of basically UDP or RTP.
Right. Greg's shaking his head there. You've not had that experience, or it's worked for you, or
no? RTP, I love RTP MIDI. I use it extensively, even across the internet. I've never had an issue with it. But hey,
the reason we did we created the data sender TCP was because of actually feedback from Sky. So they were having some issues with it in their instance. So that was why we came up.
Well, that's what happens when they let all the good audio guys go. 10 years ago.
I'll seriously, pass on the message.
I mean, Eleanor's the only one I know left over. She's great. I love Eleanor. But
they've downscaled. So many companies are downscaling, and I think this is where we're headed. Is we need the tools that are simpler to use, but still have the same kind of capabilities. The one thing I like about this is it is so easy just to start a new session. Definitely save, and then if I wanted to build a smaller interface, I just go to add channels. I select what type of channels I want. And this is another thing too, by the way, maybe I have to do more inputs down. So I'm going to input, how many do I want across it? 16.
Yeah, exactly.
And once you have 16, here's my trick I found, by the way. So go to 17. All right. It automatically numbers them. Then I just take the first one and throw it away because that way they're all numbered. By the way, it should start with one, not zero. That, a programmer wrote that part, right? So start at 0. But I just found that out today after building a couple mixers. So that's what it is. Now I have a 16 channel mixer. Now from that point, you can get lost pretty easy. There on these are all expandable sections here. So if you wanted to go into the VST world and add in certain VST plugins, you could absolutely do that. The channel strip itself is just very similar to like others, except it's a hideaway thing, so you don't have to see it all the time. So
Yeah, and actually you can press the E button next to the fader, so you have the mute and then the exactly.
There's the whole pop-up. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to have that there now, if that does that work off a selection also? So is it following me across? No, it's not. Okay.
No, I don't think
not
so.
Yet.
Not yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there we go. There's another. Well, you're gonna get full. Write them all down, or I'll send you the recording. Either one. so in this, that would be like, yeah, have that up. Even if you could have it modular and bring it over to another monitor, even, and
Yeah,
but then you can
idea.
visualize everything, and then just follow along with whatever you have a selection. Just leave that up. Greg,
You can also drag the order as well. So if you want to change the order, if you grab the equalizer, you can pull
if
the
you grab
equalizer
three,
before.
exactly.
okay. Okay.
So that's really nice and just quick and intuitive as well.
To
Where's the
whatever fits
Dugan?
your workflow.
Mm-hmm.
Say that
Sorry,
again, Greg?
question?
Where's the Dugan?
Yeah,
So we of course have a Dugan in our DSP library, or well, not a Dugan but something similar. Since this is basically the 1.0, so as you are aware, a Dugan has basically a connectivity between channels because they need to react to each other. And so this is going
That's
to
the
be
whole
in the
point
next.
of Dugan. I mean, just
Yeah, so
having
this is
auto
gonna be
mix
in the
on one
next update.
channel is pointless.
Yeah.
I mean, you
No,
can do that with
exactly.
an expander or gate or something, but yeah.
No, so the Dugan functionality, or what we're calling the speech mixer, will be coming in the next version, and we're still talking about when that's likely to be, but we're hoping by the IBC, which will be in September.
Yeah, and let's be clear, I don't consider Dugan to be a mix function. Dugan to me is noise reduction, the way I use it.
Reduction.
Yeah, so I mean, it's incredibly helpful. And yeah, you were talking about, mixers fighting stuff like this. I know a very, very good A1 that lost some shows because he wouldn't use a Dugan. No, I'm the mixer. I'll push the faders. That was his whole attitude. And, then he got caught in a situation with a bunch of lav mics in an unfriendly space and fighting it, got in an argument with the director. And next thing you know, it's like, he's not the guy anymore. And I'm like, all over a piece of processor. Wow. It's funny.
So when we started out, we actually had a chance to interview Dan Dugan. So that was really interesting. He must have been in his 80s.
Well, and I was kind of in that same thinking, not so hardcore, but I just didn't understand the box. And then I met Dan at NAB, and he had a little Mackie mixer, his Dugan processor, and some Sennheiser headsets. And he's like, here, let me show you what this is all about. We all put on headsets. And he's like, so here's normally what happens. It's like cranking up like 6 headsets at NAB with all the din of the floor going on. And then he turns the auto mixer on and it's like, whoop, all the noise, all the ambient stuff goes away. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Sold. So anyhow, seriously, I lean on that quite.
So but an interesting point is actually that when we talk about our Ultimix product, which I mentioned earlier, people always say, well, Ultimix, I know Ultimix, it's in all these mixers, Ultimix, but actually we do have a Dugan style thing also in there, but that's only doing this between the microphones, and then there's a lot of other processes like indeed basically levelers and everything you would need to do an automated mix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people have Dugan knockoffs, just not to harp the dead horse here, but Calrec thinks that their auto mix is every bit as good as Dugan, and I'm here to tell Calrec, and I have repeatedly, it's not. I still use a Dugan over their auto mix on any show that I'm with, even if it means I have to take my own unit with me. Because theirs just doesn't, theirs just doesn't dip deep enough for me, and Dan's does, and Dan says at least that he's pretty agreeable with licensing stuff. I mean, I don't know, I've never tried, but I'm not a manufacturer. But yeah, seriously, his algorithm is worth whatever he charges for it, as far as I'm concerned.
So once we have ours implemented, Greg, you can be the tester, the approver. If it gets the Greg stamp of approval, then we're good.
So Henry,
that means anything.
So just to answer Henry's question, So the idea will be that that you would. So basically, what we have already in the mixer, but it's kind of like a legacy thing, but we'll use it for this. Is a way to load plugins outside of any track, and so the idea would be that in this same way you can load a auto mixer or Dugan or however you want to call it, and then route certain tracks into it, but also load another one. So in that sense, you could indeed make groups then. That's the way we envision implementing it.
So let's circle back to a little bit on the differences between auxes and outs, because that got me a little bit confused a little bit too. Other than the monitor out. So right now the monitor out you can see on the far right, I'm moving that up and down with the slider. That is just the monitoring audio part, right? That's not an actual mapped output.
No, it's a monitor section where you hear the PFL and all these kind of things.
Yeah, so that's typically what would feed your monitor speakers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then I added 6 or 8 outputs. What is the difference between the aux and an out? Aux is, of course, different levels because you can actually go into the channels and assign those.
Yeah, so
Like
the main difference is just that the buses are really simpler. So you turn them on or you turn them off, and that's it. And the auxes have all these things like indeed pre-post, mute on fader open, which is kind of like a bird beater implementation, and then the level indeed.
So is
the
it safe
auxes are
to
just more
assume?
advanced, but you could do everything with auxes.
Is it safe to assume that your outputs are akin to what we would call a subgroup in a normal board?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's a fixed level send that feeds that, and then the auxes have a variable level send that can be pre-post and all that. Yeah, okay. And then how many aux and output resources does the engine have?
As much as you want until the computer stops working.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, just to clarify, Jeroen, it also depends on which version you're using.
Yeah.
Theoretically, that's absolutely correct.
Okay.
But for as an example, for the 16 channel version of the mixer, it's 8 auxiliaries and 8 buses. For the Mix 32, it's 16 auxiliaries and 16 buses. For Mix 64, it's 32 auxes and 32 buses. And then everything from there on becomes unlimited.
And then everything that I see here is all mono bus width. So can I have stereo 5.1, 5.14 bus widths?
No,
because
at this point,
seriously, that's why people buy CalRec. They're one of the few consoles that actually do beyond stereo buses, auxes, and all that garbage the right way, at least as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, that's something you won't find in Yamaha, Digico, whatever, Mackie.
No, so at this point we are stereo only, but we are absolutely planning to go even to Atmos indeed.
Awesome, because everything I do
implementation will then be a 5.1.4 basically.
Yeah, everything I do sports wise is 5.1 now. With stereo down mixes or stereo ancillary feeds. In NBC Sports Group in Connecticut, where everything eventually passes through, whether you're produced on site, you go through there to get to air, or if it's produced at Stanford with remote resources, all of their mix rooms are set up for 5.1.4 Atmos now. So they're not really using them yet, but all the plumbing's in place, the boards have the software that support it, the routing. Actually, the routing the 2110 conversion should be done. They were SDI and Hydra before, but now it's all 2110, or should be if they're finished.
So a lot of sites in the US are also moving to 2110 because we are also this is kind of like a scoop then, but we are also looking into implementing Ravenna actually. So then
I'm not a fan when it comes to audio. 2110 is too slow for me. We're finding that the trip through the network is 6 to 9 milliseconds, and when you have to do a round trip from an announcer to my mix back to his headset, sorry, too long. And I'm not going to have to start building mix minuses for local announce resources. Sorry. So my recommendation to NBC and NAP, especially I just talked to a bunch of those guys last week, was that audio, at least for commentary and whatnot, and intercom and comms needs to stay Dante, because Dante keeps me under a millisecond. And I can do things pretty much real time like we could in the analog days, and I don't have to deal with latency issues, period. And I shouldn't have to. I mean, come on, all this technology, you're telling me I have to slow down and start building mix minuses for everybody that holds a microphone. No, please. So I'm not on the 2110 bandwagon in my room. And again, because we were separate and on my own Dante network, when that 2110 failure happened at the Open last week, it did not affect any of my audio or comms. Thank God, because that will kill your show. You can do a show as radio, but you know, when you can't have any audio at all, leave the truck. I mean, that'll get you fired and your boss fired too.
Yeah, you can imagine that for sure. So on the stereo, so I added in a stereo channel and I moved it to where it was into the other inputs. And you'll notice that on the stereo, thank you guys for already having that choice. So you can pick which one of the ASIO inputs as you want. So maybe with 31, 32, whatever. Whereas the rest of them that are mono channels, they know I only need one channel.
Yep.
On the output side, same thing, that any aux is only a mono aux. Is there a chance to do
No, you
stereo
can
aux?
add stereo auxes actually.
Did I miss
I
that?
think, yeah, you should be. So config aux and then
okay,
stereo.
I did
Yeah.
miss that. Okay, stereo aux. That's cool. Definitely. All right, done. I had done that one too. All right, so we just built a mixer. Cool. And right now I am running at, just so you know, this little number that's up at the top. This is the resources that it's using. So it's the CPU monitor and everything. I'm running at about 50, 55, 56, maybe topping out at 60% CPU usage and RAM usage. There is no GPU on this machine. It's a virtual machine, and it's running on maybe four CPUs. It's small. I got it working, stopped. So I didn't give it any more power than I need, but like they said, if the more power you have, the more DSP basically you create out of the power of the machine
That
itself.
seems kind of high considering there's no audio present. Does that number go up when there's actually signals being crunched?
I haven't noticed that myself.
It shouldn't be, because everything is everything keeps running.
Well, I mean, I guess technically silence is still a string of zeros that you have
Yeah,
to crunch.
exactly.
So, okay, all right.
So the minimum spec, that's a hard question, I guess. In the sense that that it will run on any, it will basically run on an old i3 and an i5. But it depends really on what you want to do, right? If you have a Threadripper or so, you can, well, so I have a Threadripper and I have a mixer that is more or less twice this, first generation Threadripper, and so on my end I see it about 25%, something along those lines.
Yeah, I'm assuming for like a 64 channel mixer.
Yeah, so I would say like
Is
a
it like-
normal gaming Ryzen 7 or so would be
Okay.
more than adequate.
Okay.
That you
And
buy for less than 1,000 basically.
And then for the cloud instance you run, I think we were experimenting with this, weren't we?
Yeah, so in the cloud we are mostly experimenting with AMD virtual machines, and then so the one that I'm actually testing now, well, I think that most
that
of them
was
we,
CPU only though, right? No
yeah,
GPU
CPU
involved.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a cost savings in alone by itself, and also an availability plus, because GPUs are always going to be in demand higher than
yeah,
CPU.
exactly. Yeah, so we basically use general compute instances, and then
Okay.
I think the 2XL and the 4XL are the ones we
Oh
experiment
yeah,
with.
those are small. They're super.
Yeah.
Small. Okay.
I got two quick questions. Jeff, did you have to do any MIDI mapping of the controls to your icon?
Oh, good God, yes. I hate
Okay,
it.
because
I hate it.
you skimmed over that. I'm like, it can't be that easy.
Yeah, I
Well,
know,
all right.
like every fader, right? You have to map everything.
No,
No,
no.
it's MIDI control.
No, none of that part. It was just, me and MIDI go a long way back, but I love to hate it and I hate to love it, and all the same. I just get confused on the inputs and the outputs and the ins and outs and all that. And so let me step you back through that real quick. I'm going to open up, this is the local version here. So this is the machine, this is the Connect that's running on my local desk. So on it, I have the MIDI input, and then that's all I had to select this. Now, what I didn't do, and I didn't have it quite the understanding, is I didn't have a receive return channel. So my faders, I would move my fader up and it would go, put it back down, move it up, put it back down, because it didn't have a two-way communication. So once the guys helped me this afternoon figure that part out, then now it's working just like it should with a full two-way communication. I did this within 4 minutes on my local machine, making it work with the LAMA mix on my local machine. Zero challenges there. But going into my VMs and jumping through all the different steps I had to do that, this process using connect to connect, that's where it got a little bit more, I guess it would be a little bit more tenuous for me. But now that I understand how it's to be done, this is the connect that's running on my local machine, and then behind us, this is the remote machine here, and the connect that's running on it is effectively the same thing. It's just in reverse. So it's talking IP directly to the receiver, the data streamer, the MIDI information's going in, and then the MIDI output here is being created, and it's going to this loop MIDI. So we're using loop MIDI in the virtual machine to be able to send and share that MIDI information in and out.
Yeah.
And so that's what Mix is looking at. Mix is looking at under settings, device settings,
MIDI control,
MIDI loop MIDI port, and then the loop MIDI port
So-
is my output. I could have labeled them better. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Sorry,
So
Andy.
connect-
Sorry, just very quickly, Andy. So I think one of your question was also more to do with how you were did we have to map everything specifically for the controller to get it to work for the mixer? And the point there is it just works out of the box with Mackie Control. So if you set that as the control, you're going to get 95% of all the functionality you need to have. We also have, though, MIDI learn within the mixer as well, so you can do
Which
whatever
is here.
you really want to do. So
Yeah,
If you
but
wanted
that's
to get
really
meant
nice.
more for instance, orchestrators or so, that
Yeah.
or maybe so what we actually have is a preset system on their file, and there also you can learn presets to MIDI notes. So from a Stream Deck you can just recall presets, for instance.
Right.
Okay, tell us more about that. I'd like to hear more about that too.
Okay, so go to File.
All right.
And then go to
Presets.
presets. Yeah. And then just save new. Just press save new.
Okay.
Just this is okay.
Right.
And it basically saves the complete state of the mixer now. Okay, and so now just change some faders. Just change any faders. Yeah, exactly.
You notice I didn't use a mouse to do that. I reached over, just automatically grabbed my faders.
Yeah, I thought you were very quick with the mouse, but yeah.
How cool.
Okay, makes sense.
All right, so
maybe-
do that again. So save it again.
No, wait. If you can just stop. Oh, you've done it already. Okay.
I'm that quick.
No. So what you can do. So on the far right there, you see the little blue circle.
Yeah.
That's actually the crossover time.
Yeah,
So
but it's better to actually use it now. So so let me explain that part. So if you go back to preset 1 without double clicking, just click it once,
Okay.
and
Select it. Yep.
yeah, and then on indeed that wheel on the right, just put it all the way down.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up and down. Yeah, okay. And now press save
gotcha.
config.
I gotcha. All right.
Save config.
Okay.
Did you press it? Okay.
Yep.
And
So-
now double click preset 1 to basically trigger it. Yeah.
Got it.
And now
All right.
click preset 2 again, where we didn't do this.
Ah,
So after
Excellent.
you save the states, you can then adjust all kinds of settings. And so what you can also see is the whole list of channels that are all basically in the state of this preset. You can
what's
deselect
included.
some.
So if
and
you
then
wanted to leave certain outputs, always never mess with this. Never
Yeah.
auxiliary
Certain things you do by
feeds
hand
somewhere.
still, and other things you just recall. That's the
Nice.
idea indeed. Or
And the
you
time-
don't recall the penning or so. I don't know. Something
Okay.
on those, or never recall the EQs.
And then the MIDI part that's whatever's coming off of the board or whatever.
Well, you need. Oh no, so it's a little bit different because Mackie Control is basically kind of like a hack on top of MIDI. So you
Okay.
will need a separate MIDI controller that is just a regular MIDI controller that
Okay,
just sends
okay.
out MIDI notes.
Gotcha. Not new.
So we were using the Elgato Stream Deck, and you just get a plugin for the Elgato Stream Deck, which is
to
a MIDI
send
plugin.
control message.
Send
Okay.
control messages, and it works seamlessly. And what I was basically doing was using that to trigger the presets and basically making a show out of the presets. So it was really very, very, a very simple setup as well. I literally had a laptop, an Elgato, and a simple interface, and I was doing a show. So that was great.
Beautiful.
Sorry, quite a few questions coming in there. So what were they?
Yeah. Let's look at it. I'm going to start with Ryan Thompson. Is it in equal increments? Each channel I add will increase CPU consumption by X. Is that something we could kind of do in our math in our mind, or do you just build it and see where it's at?
I think
that's simple since
Mm.
if you have it kind of depends on the routing too. So it's not necessarily that simple because there's always like what they call the audio graph. Let's not go into too many details, but it depends on what needs to be processed first. So it is more or less similar to that, but it's not that simple. And also the other thing is that it will depend on how many effects you have turned on, right? Because as long as your EQ and dynamics and such are turned off, it doesn't take any resources.
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. Let's see, Tucker, thanks for coming. Is latency fixed? If not, what impacts the input to output latency?
So so it doesn't add any extra latency on top of the sound card. Well, of course, that's not completely true because an EQ will add some phase changes. So, but that's all sample level.
No, I think Jeroen, I think he's talking about the actual settings in the actual latency on the actual.
Yeah, so it doesn't add any more than the sound card reports basically, but it's input and output, right? So it's twice.
So this the buffer size, like here. I mean, that's the lowest I would be able to go is 0.7 milliseconds, 32 samples. Okay.
But that's something that works on almost no computer, but 64 is doable on most computers. Yes.
Okay.
And what about a delay resource? Okay, you're talking about system latency of just going through the mixer. What happens when my wireless microphone, which is in perfect time because audio always is, and he stands in front of a wireless camera that's 3 frames late? I need to fix that. Why? It's a video problem. So is there a delay resource in there where I could dial in some delay?
Yeah, there's actually
and how far can I go?
So you would need to check because I don't remember, but it's under input.
The top
input, and then there is the delay.
One
is
this is a millisecond, so you can double click. You can double.
Oh, it's milliseconds.
And I think you can just put in 5,000 or so.
It'll do 999. All right.
Yeah,
we're going higher.
Like just shy of a second.
5,000.
Oh, it will.
Oh, 499 probably. It goes to 499.
But I can't see, so.
Yeah. So so the thing is that then we actually have an updated UI planned. Yeah, at some point you need to make the decision that this is the 1.0 basically. Otherwise you can keep developing until everything's in there.
And then okay, so you have delay on inputs, but what if I want to delay an output? Because you can't typically delay an input. Because especially if it's a talent's mic, if I put input, a delay input on his mic, and then I'm sending that back to his ears, then he'll hear the delay that I put in to fix his lip sync. Yeah. So that's a no-no.
Yeah. So
can you delay outputs and auxes?
So now probably you would want to figure out something with multiple channels. But indeed, this is something that we need post-fader delays, these kind of things indeed. And then a pre-fader aux probably. Yeah.
So, but I mean, you have it on the out here. Is that delay not affect it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So that's what I mean. So you can, of course, now find kind of like tricks by putting the delay further down the chain.
Yeah, I'm not giving away all my best secrets.
One channel, but yet. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Let's see. Next question. Jonas, can you also have multiple operators at the same time on the system?
Not yet. So we are in the process of converting slowly everything. So making sure that everything has an API and then also a web GUI. And then the logical choice would be that the web GUI would actually also have its own MIDI control and Mackie control, and it would just convert it to API calls, and then you can have multiple people. But at this point, it's basically a one-person mixer, and how most people use it in the cloud is with VLC currently, VLC VNC.
Oh, for just logging into it, you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
To see it. But I could see, I mean, you could have multiple MIDI devices controlling it, right?
Yeah. So but they are so you cannot. So one thing that I've actually not tested, but that I want to test, you can, I think, just mirror the Mac controllers, but all of them will always look at the same thing at that point.
Ah, okay. So you'd have to have different controllers. Wow, yeah. You're all using the Mackie interconnection anyway. So they're all emulating Mackie, so you can only have X amount of controllers.
Yeah, but you can, of course, if you really build it that it has an API and then web GUIs, and then a Mackie controller can be connected to the web GUI, and then it's completely free, of course. But we are not at that stage yet.
But you're headed there. That's great to hear. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I could definitely see that there are certain times it would be nice to have someone doing a submix or maybe a different path for a different type of product. But for the pricing point that you guys have shared with me, I would be fine with just buying another copy too and run it on another machine. Honestly, you guys are very aggressive in your pricing, and it was much appreciated for those of us that don't have CalRecs that we're sitting behind all the time, as much as we'd like to, but still. It's nice to be able to have.
Not everyone's Greg. I can see
Not
Greg smiling there.
Let's just say that I don't own those CalRecs. That the one I was
Okay.
sitting behind last week is $800,000 with the I/O that comes with it and the Surface.
Yeah.
No, it's
So
beyond
we
my budget.
We understand this doesn't smell like a CalRec. It hasn't got the same feel as a CalRec. But what we're trying to do is trying to a certain extent, democratize the amount of functionality that you would have with something like a CalRec, and try and do that in software. And I think that's kind of like the core of when we started this project, was to really make it as a broadcast mixer from the bottom up. It was not a modified music mixer. It really was meant as a broadcast mixer.
I think we have a couple of more questions. If I see that,
looks like a couple did more. Workflow so what is the workflow Eurosport is using right now? From Henry, just ask your question.
No, but I can. So they are using this. So they are using Automix, right? Which is not this piece of software. And what they do is they run it on regular servers, and then they have basically. So Automix basically has also a list of on the left side of what we call all the audio processes, but each audio process is a complete mix. And then they run 10 of them at the same time on one computer, and they are just always set up. So I think they have like 40 machines or so. I don't know exactly. All with 10 instances of Automix always set up, and then they just route different audios into it, and different codecs and different microphones, and so that's basically their workflow.
And how are they so how are they getting the analog in? Is that sound cards? Is that Dante? Is that
So they're all Ravenna actually. So they're using, for instance, merging devices and Labo, and I'm not sure what else, but some other things. But it's all Ravenna.
So that's why we were saying earlier that we have a project now which is actually creating an AES-67 node for Connect as well, for those kind of business, those kind of user cases.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, again, what we're trying to do is just create. Connect is really trying to get all the different formats and trying to create a place where you can all meet and share and interconnect in a very seamless way. That's kind of the whole concept behind it.
Yeah, I'm interested in learning about this actually being able to be controlled by studio automation, because I come from a news background and saw all of that. So I don't want to open that can of worms yet, but I'll hit you before we're done.
That's not a can of worms, because I mean, can you remember the system that Eurosports are using?
Yeah, but I'm not so sure if we can talk about all their internals.
Okay.
Well, I
Yes, but
used to
they're doing
deal
it
in,
anyways.
yeah, I used to deal in the broadcast audio space, still
Mhm.
dabble here and there, but basically the products I'm thinking of are Ross Overdrive, Grass Valley Ignite, Sony ELC, and VizRT. I don't know if Mozart changed to Vector. Jeff, maybe you would know, Jeff.
It's
But
still
I
Mozart.
think
oh, okay.
Eurosports themselves are using a different orchestrator, but essentially
Yeah,
it's the
they're
same
using a different
principle.
one.
Yeah, so those are
Yeah.
using like, drivers, and then the macros are just mixing the show. But
Yeah, on their end it's similar,
maybe
but
I'll
they're
talk to you
routing
more about
everything
that.
with NMOS basically. So
Mm.
everything is Ravenna or 2110, and they're just routing everything with NMOS.
Yeah, like my old station actually has Dante IO. So I'm wondering if there was some way your software would be able to be controlled by an automation software. But I know there are some protocols out there. CalRec has a protocol. Grass Valley has a new protocol that's
Yeah.
proprietary.
So
And
the problem with all these protocols is, and this is actually
yeah,
kind of like an open point, is that all the big boys basically want everybody else to implement their protocol, but there's not one big boy, right? So there are 4 or
the
5 or
only
so.
the
So
only
at some
public
point
ones
you're
I know.
implementing six APIs or so.
Yeah, and I think that would have to be they'd have to make it worth it. It's like, hey, I have 10
Yeah,
stations and I want your system develop me with my protocol or whatever. But
that's the way we've been working up until now. It's been based upon business led. So if there's enough of
yeah,
a if there's enough of a chunk of cash behind it, then obviously we can invest the time. And we are a relatively small, innovative young company, but at the same time you need to be careful, obviously, how you spend your development time. That's the challenge.
true.
Mhm.
All right.
All right, so Jonas
to you,
had
Jeff.
another question. Can you have 2 mix engines follow each other for redundancy?
Not yet. When the API is there, then this will be possible.
Then it'll
but
be
not
easier
yet.
at that point.
Yeah.
And let's see, also wanted to show how to route NDI to the inputs. I had it working yesterday.
Yeah,
And
that's actually really easy.
but I don't have it's not showing up anymore in the system. So I'm gonna go back to share, and then we'll see if we can figure this out live right now. So
Uh-huh.
here we are. So
So one thing that
right click.
yeah, so just click on lamamix.com, the bottom option. Oh, I see. Okay. So I'm not, maybe you haven't installed the very latest downloads, but let's try and see. Just click this one. Yeah. Lama
Okay.
Mix.
All right.
Just, yeah, drag it somewhere. Go to settings. No, in the menu settings.
Okay.
And then just rescan VST plugins. Just scan. If it cannot find it, then it did find it. Okay, so right click anywhere on the graph,
Okay.
and then
There
Llama.
it is. Okay.
Oh no, but so could you delete this one? Because we actually have our own.
Oh.
So just right click it.
And delete. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And right click anywhere in the graph again, Llama.
Llama.
Yeah. So NDI
NDI
receiver, and
receiver.
just add them both. NDI receiver and NDI sender. Yeah, put
Okay.
the receiver to the left, put the sender to the right. And I think you remember the trick, right? When you connect one, it's holding control.
Yes, I did remember that.
Oh,
So
you
but I
deleted
want
the
to,
mixer though.
but I want to. Oh, I need it in that mixer. That's right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
All right. All right. So then you drag over, hold control, drag over, and then it
Just type
asks you, how many
16
do
or
I want to
so.
do? Well, we're going
Yeah.
to do 16. Boom.
Time saver.
Yes, very much. 16 here too. Okay.
Yeah.
Done. And then if you click the number, you can squeeze it down and get some very happy desk space back, which I really like too.
Yeah, and actually, if you right click on, for instance, the Llama NDI receiver, then indeed you can do, or the sender, doesn't really matter.
Okay.
And then do configure audio I/O.
Yep.
And then just go to the
this
second bus. So just press on the green 2.
Okay.
And just press enable. Okay, and now you've got 16 extra channels. And right, and so basically what we did is or what basically NDI themselves had already done, is that you can implement more audio streams. And so basically we've done 2 things here. So instead of limiting the audio streams to 16, we actually allow for up to 256 audio streams. So you can just enable buses until you reach 256. And the
Okay.
other thing is that we made a new buffering scheme, basically, instead of what NDI does in their own products. We basically created our own to make it work more like how a sound card would work, where you set a buffer size, and that's then the fixed latency.
Okay.
So
And
yeah,
so
if you press
usually just
autoconfig,
leave it
oh,
as
if you
zero.
press autoconfig, if there's actually something happening on the stream, I don't think there's anything on the stream probably. But well, the idea is that that now it will, or the stream is just so good that it's actually not getting any
Probably don't
underrun.
have it turned on actually.
Oh,
Matter
yeah.
of fact, I
So
know it's
basically,
not turned on.
what would normally happen is that every time it would get an underrun, it would just switch to the next buffer size, and so in 20 seconds you would get a buffer size that is well, in most cases the correct one that doesn't produce any underruns.
Interesting.
The reason we also developed this as well is because the original NDI implementation of audio themselves, the timing was not really stable. There were some issues with the timing. Whereas with this, it's up to 256 channels and it's rock solid when it comes to the timing as well. So I think that's the key sort of takeaway from a usability perspective.
Okay. So then from that point on, what do we go bring that into mix? And where do we bring that those audio channels in, those NDI
so
audio?
So now you just routed from the from the receiver, you routed channel 1 to channel 1. So once you just put connect channel 1, it's already it's already in there.
Okay.
So does this mean I need to have one NDI receiver per source? So if I have 6 inputs coming from a Zoom room, for example, instead of doing what Jeff did, I actually need to create 6 NDI receivers and then connect them up.
Yeah.
Do you have an interface that then allows me to like easily tie those, like select what NDI feed I'm using per audio input, or do I have to go into this interface and right click, set up audio IO?
So the interesting thing is that we are actually creating an NDI sound card that is more geared towards these kind of workflows indeed. But in Connect, you would indeed need to click the node and then just set everything up individually per stream indeed.
Okay.
So can you explain how LAMA Connect and LAMA Mix like interact? Right now it seems like LAMA Connect is more router that routes stuff into ASIO devices, but like it feels like, do you need LAMA Connect to use LAMA Mix in the cloud, or what's the, like, how do they fit together?
So you don't necessarily need it, because you could, for instance, use Dante Connect and run everything Dante directly into the mixer. But the point of Connect is indeed that you can use multiple sources at the same time. So you can have multiple NDI streams. You can actually, if you indeed click device IO, you can add actually multiple sound cards also. Yeah, indeed, device IO. And the other thing is actually that Connect, if you go to, well, you probably did this, if you go to settings, audio device settings, this will mess up your routing a little bit, but if you press the audio device type
Here.
yeah, there, and then go to LAMA audio. And so now you can put it to 48. So now this LAMA audio is actually kind of like, well, it's not really a dummy device, but it's its own clock. And so with this setting, you can run Connect anywhere, even if there's no sound cards. And because it generates its own clock. And so in that way, you can use NDI sources as the sound card, or yeah, well, at some point we'll also add WebRTC and all these other things. So then it's really like your cloud patch bay. So that's more the vision for Connect, to make it basically your cloud patch bay.
So that LAMA audio then generates like a virtual audio device on Windows?
Yeah.
And is that only ASIO or also WDM?
Everything. But so basically what it does is so a sound card of course generates basically what they call the audio callback every time that it has a buffer and it needs a buffer, and we basically do that same principle. We just make the whole graph think that there's a sound card, and it just does everything as if there's a sound card, but there is no sound card. But that way you can use NDI streams as the input, and well, everything else that needs this clock basically going.
Gotcha.
Does that explain it, Jonas?
Yeah, I think it does. Just trying
If
to
you
think
got-
like through where would I need to route it, and like
Hmm.
what would I use and all that.
If you need a show and tell session, just let us know, Jonas, and we can jump on.
Sounds great.
Happy to do it.
I think that probably the biggest thing was for me the kind of the turning point was getting the time on it, and once building a couple shows out of it, and we've used it with our virtual link up with Sage Studio. I've been using it as a backup, just doing tracking and following along, and it has been just as clear and clean as it can be. I'm using Unity Connect to link the two studios together. So I've up to 64 channels of audio. I'm averaging about 35 or so now with comms involved also. And that's all coming Dante into our network. And then once it's Dante, then we take it from there into both the CL QL tie up together, and then also into our this product going in the LAMA mix and Connect, just so that we could just kind of get more feel with it. And I've been really impressed. I mean, it's just running on, and I haven't ran one of the shows on the VM yet. I've been running it on one of our Dell 3930s with no real issues whatsoever that I can say. And it's got a little bit more power than the VM does. So it was averaging about 25-30% with all that audio bouncing, Greg. So it really wasn't a whole lot of CPU. And you've got enough 3930s around. We tried on yours. I'd love for you to get your hands on the demo, which I know Ewan's already sent that email to you.
I got a link for Connect, but nothing for Mix, unless it's all in that same thing.
It should all be in the same WeTransfer.
Oh, okay.
If you
I'll
click
look
on
at
the
it,
WeTransfer
later
thing,
today.
you should have the whole caboodle.
Oos.
Excellent. Thank you.
No
Yeah,
worries.
and I agree with Jonas. It's been tough for me to understand, where do I want to use Mix, where do I want to use Connect, when do I need to absolutely have to get it together. The when we put it in the VM and then we remote it in with the MIDI control surface, that was absolutely, I needed to connect on both ends to do that.
Yeah, but let me give you another example. So
Okay.
indeed, so this is also kind of like a scoop, but we have a POC running for basically a merger of an NDI video stream and audio from Connect. So that will so when we release that, then Connect will also be able to merge audio and create a new NDI stream from an old video and new audio. So the idea then would be that you take audio from NDI streams, you do all your processing, and then you create your output directly from Connect.
And will that have some because things are not going to be in sync. Is that going to have
so then it will have
adjustments?
a delay slider.
Okay.
Yeah.
The famous lip sync. Let's try to catch that up. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's see if we have any more questions from anybody. I have closed my chat. Now it's back open. All right. Andy wants to know, can we add a user, add a color to a channel strip? Can a user add a color to a channel strip to help differentiate and make it pretty?
So if you go to mix and just go to the bottom of a channel.
Okay.
And then you see that you can actually expand it if you click that one indeed.
Yeah.
And then on the left, you see the icon that's on the left. That's actually the color selector.
I couldn't operate something. Okay.
Yeah. So this is all. So it is working now, but we will have to make this a little bit nicer for the final, or for the 1.0, I mean, or so. 1.2, 1.5. But indeed we do have colors, but as you can see, the white and the yellow are here a little bit
Yeah, kind of
too
hard to
So
close
the
to
way
each other.
the way I do it is probably everyone's got their own thing. Is they've got their own color schemes for certain things. So I tend to do that as well. I tend to, yeah, exactly, Greg. Yeah. So I tend to have, you know, very quick ways of just seeing where I'm going to be doing. The other thing I use is the layer view as well. So if you click on the top left-hand side, you've got the layer views.
yet.
What
So
layer
the
view?
layer view. So if you go
all
to the
right,
left
yeah.
there, so the
Yeah.
layer view, you can select your different layers. So I tend to have, like, if I'm doing, say, for example, it's a house of worship mix or something, then you've got all your drums on one layer, you've got your guitars on one layer, you've got your singers on one layer. And I guess in broadcast, you'd have something similar as well.
Yeah, and so actually the F keys on the Mackie controller makes you allow you to switch between the layers. So F1 is layer 1, F2 is layer 2, and all these things.
So I tend to use the colors, and then I use the layers, and I can keep track of the mix. Basically, that's the way I tend to.
How long before some old school guy like me is going to take his white tape and go right on the
Yeah,
screen?
exactly.
It'll happen.
You know, maybe this is where people get really pissed off, because people are like recreating these analog sort of things in software.
Yeah.
But maybe we should have a strip of white tape that just sort of goes across the bottom of the page. Or something.
That's a new term I just learned last week at the Open. Analog labels.
Analog labels.
Okay.
There you
Some
go.
people can't live without them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why people are still buying records, you know.
It's not just audio guys though. I know a couple video guys, a lot more than a couple. Video
Tommy
guys,
Roy, the guy that drives the NBC golf bus, he requires
everywhere.
analog labels now.
Yeah, analog labels everywhere. No matter it's a digital strip, you know, with a full color display and everything like that. That doesn't matter. Nope, I want it on a piece of tape with my scribble. That's so I can see it. Oh man,
Anyways.
what a great time. Is there any other questions from anybody? Chime in, bring it up now. We've got the guys. They're here. Let's answer a question if we have them.
We're going to need a part 2 now that we get the trials in our hands and you start playing around with them. I'm sure we'll have a lot more later.
I think the point I think Jeff was kind of making as well, and I think the feedback we're getting as well is, I think the challenge is there's so much functionality and there's so many possibilities of how you could potentially use this. And what we're really looking for, and why we love the fact that Jeff's been doing this, and all you guys are on here as well, is we need the feedback from you guys with regards to, okay, this is how I've been using it. And also, if there are certain things that you still need, then we need to have that feedback as well, because that's how we've made our products. It's been from the bottom up. It's been from actually the active users going out there and using it and actually finding ways we didn't even think about. You know, there are things that this is being used for that we didn't even think about. So I really, really would encourage you. There's a free trial link on the webpage. So if you go to the free trial link, you can download the free trial and then just reach out to us. And if you do need extra help, you need support, we're also happy to do that as well, because this is how we're going to build the product.
Have you guys released a pricing structure yet? Anything like that?
We have. So in the US, you guys can also go through JB&A. I don't know if you know the JB&A as a distributor in the US. I can post up the link for JB&A there.
Video guys would be their the commercial side that sells to normal people that aren't distributors. So so video guys is their public facing side. Great people though. I do a lot of business with them. So
yeah,
the brothers will help you.
And then otherwise, at the end of the month, our online store is also going to be live as well. So you can also buy through there. But just reach out to us if you've got any questions on that. As Jeff said, how much is the money? Show me the money. Is that what you're going to say, Jeff? Greg? I can show you if you want. I can show you the recommended retail prices.
I gave you permission.
So let me get that up here. And this is where hopefully we're going to get lots of wows. So bear with me. I'll just get the up and running. I'm just running through the presentation. I did create a presentation.
Well, why didn't we do the presentation?
I didn't want to give you guys a presentation. I wanted to leave you guys doing what you were doing. So here we go. Screen share. You see that from your side, guys?
Sure do.
Okay. So this is the recommended master reseller sales prices in dollars and in euros, and we're selling as yearly subscriptions. And as you can see, it's very, very pragmatic prices for what it's actually doing. This is for mix, and then this.
And we need to add that broadcast is actually a package where you get Connect included.
Yeah, that's including LAMA Connect. And then for Connect, this is the pricing as well.
So I would be able to use just the Connect free to do my link from my controller up to the cloud or to whatever machine that I want.
It only allows for 2 MIDI connections, so I think, well, it works. Just if you don't use the MIDI logger, it will work.
Okay.
To be completely frank, we've also reduced the number of channels in the free version because we got so much feedback saying you guys are giving away so much value. So it's actually gone down from 16. It's actually now 8. But we need to get the money flowing, guys. So please sign up.
Oh, it's still, I mean, for that kind of price, where we're building a full digital console.
Yeah.
For a fraction of the cost of a full digital console. That's continually going to be updated, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And that's also why we also chose the yearly licenses as well, because we want to continuously develop this and we want to continuously add the value. So that's the idea behind it.
Absolutely.
Sorry, there was a question there from the group.
Yeah, I was wondering, you have the VM support there, so only Connect Cloud would work in the cloud, right? So that's the 2K for Connect Cloud, and then any of the mixers work, or is there also a specific version of the mixers?
No, all the mixers will work. It's only the Connect piece that's VM specific. And again, I'm afraid that's also market led as well, what we talked about with Jeff. What we are looking at, though, based upon your feedback, Jeff and the other guys, is the potential to do maybe monthly licenses for the bigger packages for the cloud Connect as well. So hopefully we can confirm that within a short amount of time as well, because I think, Jeff, your feedback there was that there are times where you're just going to have a project for a short-term period. So, you know, it's if the pricing is low enough, you're okay to buy a license. But at the same time, if you're only going to be doing a certain period, then it probably makes sense to offer that as a monthly license.
And what if we have someone start off at the low end, you know, just to get started at, say, the 32 channel, and you need to go up to 64? Is it just to pay the difference type thing?
So we haven't actually thought that through, but we can actually, I'm sure we can come up with a deal that makes sense. Obviously, if you want to give us an upgrade in the amount of money you'd like to pay us, then we'd be quite happy to accept that.
You can so just ask for Jonas's question. You can run mix without Connect. So Connect is really meant as the patch bay, and mix can run like I mentioned earlier, for instance, with the Dante driver.
Yeah, I think with Connect as well, I think the other thing to mention is because of that 256 channels and the ability to make sure that the timing is absolutely solid, it is a viable alternative for some user cases versus something like the Dante Connect. So again, there are advantages to all the different ways of doing this. Yeah, Greg. Yeah.
Yeah. So can I use Connect to just be an NDI Dante translator?
Yeah.
Because that's a big hole in a lot of my setups.
And actually,
absolutely.
Nobody has a product yet that makes me happy. Even
so,
remotely happy.
There you go.
So actually, because we have this device IO, which Jeff had on his instance, where you can actually load multiple drivers. So you can have Dante to NDI, but then if you would
so it's not necessarily just to connect into the mix. I mean, it's a multi-purpose connector tool.
Yeah. You can do it for a format conversion.
You should promote that a little better, because I didn't understand that from what we said earlier. So I'm glad I asked this question.
Do you have this picture that you showed me the other day, Ewan, where you connected 3 or 4 audio devices all at the same time?
Yeah, so this is my presentation that I didn't show you, so bear with me a second. Let me go here. Yeah, so let me quickly share this. So again, because there's so many different user cases, so this is a user case examples. So yeah, so basically these are the kind of all the different formats that you can basically connect up. But I think the thing that Jeroen was talking about was specifically this. But you've got Dante, you've got Maddie, you've got Azio, everything all being able to run together. The other thing that I've also used it for quite successfully is actually running multiple audio interfaces on the same.
Yeah, that was
instance.
actually what I meant. Yeah, multiple audio interfaces at the same time.
And you're bringing those in and then going into the LAMA device IO, and you're just patching them wherever you want them at that point.
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, I was using this more for a Pro AV type scenario where I had an interface with 10 inputs. I had another interface with 18 inputs, and I was just able to bring them all together and use them as one thing. So that was really very useful for just quickly expanding. But you're right, Greg. We need to make more use of this. We need to make it clearer.
Way cheaper than hardware that does the same thing. Way cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll send you the bill.
Okay.
Sounds great. Well, this was a fantastic show, guys. I really appreciate you coming in. I know it's late for you guys over there.
No, it's not. It's early.
Yeah, it's early.
I guess a bit
it's
of
1 o'clock in the morning.
They're on the Joe to Max schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good.
Well, really appreciate you coming in, and thanks for being available to us and bringing up this this wonderful product into the market, because it's definitely been something we've needed. One of those things that we were struggling with since COVID and on, even before COVID had made us all do this thing in the cloud, more so, or remote production in general. Now with more people finally embracing it, it's great to see good products like this come to market, and I think you guys have a bright future, and I can't wait to keep pounding on it and keep giving you money, because it's going to be a big change for our workflows for sure. Thanks, well, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. Appreciate it again for dropping by, for everybody, and I'm gonna get this thing posted and put a stamp on it and get it up to the YouTubes for everybody to enjoy later down the road. And I just want to say thank you all for coming to see What Makes It Tick.
Thank you.
Jeff. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.